on, everybody? Birdie here with another Genshin Impact video. Today we're going to talk about the Zhongli banner and whether you guys should summon for him or not. There's also some really cool 4-star characters on this banner. Razor, Chongyun, and then a brand new character, Xin Yan as well. Before we get into it, I want to say one thing. Every single character in this game is viable and usable if built properly. Now, there's some hate on Reddit about Zhongli and Xin Yan and how they're not good and blah, 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 blah. Now, that's probably just some people's opinion. I'm going to give you guys my opinion on these characters and how they can be used to your advantage. Now, this is obviously mostly for people who are on a budget and who are trying to decide whether they want to summon for this banner or not, whether they want to wait, whether these characters can be of help to them. If you guys do find this video helpful in any way, please leave a like and a subscribe. Any support that I can get is greatly appreciated. Alright, so we're just here in the test run for Zhongli, and we're going to go ahead and check out his abilities and things like that. So he is not geared very well here at all. He's not going to be doing any crazy damage, so don't judge damage. We're just going to look at his abilities and what he can do. So for his E, Dominus Lapidus, he pretty much summons a pillar that deals AoE geo damage, and additionally, it will resonate with other geo constructs in the vicinity, dealing geo damage to surrounding enemies. This is considered a geo-construct and it can both be climbed and used to block attacks. Only one may exist at any one time. Now, if you hold it, causes nearby geo energy to explode, causing the following effects. Creates a shield of jade. The shield's damage absorption scales based on Zhongli's hit points and absorbs geo damage 250% more effectively. Causes AoE geo damage, and then if there are any nearby targets with the geo element, it will drain a large amount of geo element from a maximum of 2 such targets. This effect does not cause damage. For his ultimate, Planet Befall, this is probably one of the coolest ults in the game. It petrifies. It does a good amount of geo damage, AoE geo damage. It can be used for CC and for damage. And on top of it, it only has a 40 energy cost, means you can spam the shit out of it. For his passive, Resonant Waves, when the Jade shield takes damage, it will fortify. Fortified characters have a 5% increased shield strength, can stack up to 5 times. So this is really nice because as you get hit, your shield just gets stronger. And then Dominance of Earth, Planet Befall, deals additional damage equal to 33% of Zhongli's max hit points. His base hit point stat is really high. So you're going to be able to get really, really high hit points on him if you want to. For his last talent here, Arcanum of Crystal, refunds 15% of the ores used when crafting Poron-type weapons. So if we go take a look at his constellations, I'm going to say that this is the only 5-star in the game, in my opinion, that's going to feel bad not having C1, right? It's the only 5-star where I almost don't want to use unless I get a second copy. And the reason for that is he summons, or he has the ability to summon 2 pillars when he's C1. And the reason why this is so good is because it technically enables you to not have to run a second Geo while running Zhongli. Or it will just add to the amount of resonance damage that you do because you're just going to have a ridiculous amount of constructs on the field. You can have 2 from the Traveler and you can have 2 from Zhongli. You can also use Ningguang, but she only has 1 construct. So if you do have the constellation here, it will be 3 total constructs that you can have on the field. On his C2, you get a shield from his ult. On his C4, increases AoE by 20%, increases the duration of Planet Befall petrification effect by 2 seconds. And then when the Jade Shield takes damage on C6, 40% of that incoming damage is converted to hit points for the current characters. So his constellations are mostly for support. Like I said, the most important one, in my opinion, being C1. Check out kind of how he works. You can summon down the E. And then you're waiting. Now you're going to be waiting for your charge. Charge that up. And now what you want to do is you want to try to cause Superconduct. So that way he does a lot more physical damage because all of his damage from the spear is white. Try to gather these enemies up a little bit. Now they have Superconduct. They are right around the pillar, taking the damage, the AoE damage from the pillar. See, now if you had a second pillar, this would be a lot easier because you could place it like right here in between all the enemies, and they would just continuously take damage. Now for his ult, if I can get it off, it does a decent amount of damage there. The E, when it comes down, it will take care of Geo shields and Geo constructs, but the resonance damage does not actually take care of the construct, which is technically kind of good because it will stack. Your construct will stack with the other two constructs, dealing 3 times the amount of damage from the AoE here, as you can see. The ult, however, will destroy everything. So for party comp, you're probably going to run or want to run an Electro and a Cryo for super conduct, so that way his white damage increases. And then if you don't have C1, you're definitely going to want to run another Geo. And honestly, even if you do have C1, you might want to run another Geo as well. So your party composition could be something like Ningguang as your main DPS, Zhongli as your off DPS, and then Kaya and Lisa as your super conduct. Now, that's somewhat of a free-to-play option. If you have all the characters and can use whatever you want, you can use Fischl as your support, and then you can also use Kaya or Chi-Chi or Diona as your ice, and then you can run the 2 Geo characters. Now, the issue with that is going to be the fact that you are running 2 Geo characters, and it might not be good to deal against certain groups of enemies. A lot of the times you might want to have a fire DPS on your squad as well. Also, if you're dealing with fire shields, you're going to need a water DPS. The parties are going to look something like Zhongli, Ningguang, Fischl, and Kaya, or Zhongli, Ningguang, Fischl, and Chi-Chi. Zhongli, a fire DPS, and then a super conduct. Now, if you're not going to go with super conduct, that kind of opens you up a little bit more. But if you're going to use Zhongli as your main DPS, you're going to want super conduct because as enemies level gets higher, their physical resistance increases by a very large amount. And the reason why super conduct is so good is that it takes away a specific percentage, meaning that the stronger the enemy is, technically, the more defense you're taking away from them, or the more physical resistance you're taking away from them with super conduct. Okay, so for Xinyan, on her E, she has a shield. If she hits 0 to 1 enemies, she will just apply the shield. If she hits 2 enemies, she applies a bigger shield. And if she hits 3 enemies, she will apply the biggest shield, and also that shield will do AoE pyro damage over time. When you apply her shield or her E, you see the little fire icon above your health bar pop up. That is going to act as a cleanse. It's going to be really useful on something like, for example, Abyss Floor 12. Alright, so if we check that out in combat, we can go ahead and apply super conduct on some of these, right? Then we can shield, and then she will take fire damage, and you could do the charge attack for really, really nice damage. It will also charge her ult nicely. And then for her ult, you will see here in a minute, so it's going to do initially, it's going to do physical damage, and then it's going to do AoE pyro damage as well. So as you see, the physical damage is much, much greater than the pyro damage. So you're not going to build her with pyro damage. You're probably going to build her with crit damage and physical attack damage bonus. So on her C1, upon scoring a critical hit, increases attack speed of Xinya's normal and charged attacks by 12%. Really good. Then on her C2, physical damage has its... so the ult's physical damage has its crit rate increased by 100%. So you could just build crit damage. This is what I was saying, crit damage and physical damage bonus. Her C4, Sweep and Fervor swing damage decreases opponent's physical resistance by 15%. Awesome again. And then on her C6, decreases the stamina consumption of Xinya's charge attacks by 30%. Additionally, Xinya's charge attacks get an attack bonus equal to 50% of her defense base. Now her E scales off her defense. If you get her to C6, you can build her with defense, physical damage bonus, crit damage, and attack. And she is just going to slap. Either way, though, I think she is really, really good and can be used as a support DPS and main DPS as well. And then for people who are concerned about her pyro damage, the fact that the shield ticks pyro damage means that she's actually going to be really good at taking down shields. Because let's say you're fighting a multiple group of, let's say, ice slimes, and 2 of them have shields and 4 of them don't. You're going to be smacking the little slimes while the E is ticking, taking away the big slimes' shield, and then you can charge attack and just smack all of them at once, getting your ult, and then you just smack them with your ult and just rinse and repeat. And the fact that she has a shield makes her tanky and very survivable, and on top of that she has a cleanse. So if you need a fire DPS, if you need a claymore user, if you just think she is really, really cool, you are absolutely correct, and you should go ahead and grab her if you want to. Now let's go ahead and talk about Chongyun and Razor real quick. We're not going to do any like showcase on abilities with them because they've been in the game for a while. But pretty much Chongyun, his E does damage and summons and Changhua Frostfield, which with his first talent increases normal attack speed by 8%, and it also converts all sword, greatsword, and polearm wielding characters converted to cryo damage. So it could be good, it could be bad, depending on what you're doing. So you have to be careful that if you're going with for a physical damage build or for, let's say, a pyro build with the Luke, you don't want to pop E and then use the Luke inside of the circle because he's going to be doing cryo damage. Chongyun is definitely a pretty good DPS. On his ult, he also slams down a bunch of icicles that deal AoE cryo damage and launch enemies. And then for his passive, he has a really cool one in my opinion because when dispatched on an expedition in Liu, time consumed is reduced by 25%, means you can get ore a lot faster. One other thing I want to mention about Chongyun real quick is on his C2 constellation, the cooldown of the skill and the burst will be reduced by 15%. So for example, I used to use this with Klee a lot because I would pop my E with Barbara, pop the E with Chongyun, and then switch to Klee because her E is on a really, really long cooldown. And then I would get the melt proc, which would give me a lot of damage. Plus, I would get my E back 15% faster. Razor, he is just a physical damage beast. He does do some electro damage, but he is mostly a physical damage dealer. On his Claw and Thunder, swings the Thunder Claw, dealing electro damage to enemies in front of Razor. Upon striking an enemy, Razor will gain an electro sigil, which increases his energy recharge rate. So pretty much, his E smacks and gives you energy recharge rate so you can get your ult. Now, you want your ult back as fast as possible, as often as possible, because you're going to get increased attack speed. And that only goes up by the, so you get 32% at level 4, but that only goes up as you level it. So for his passives, Woven Sprint, it decreases sprinting stamina consumption by 20%, really nice for traveling in the world. Awakening, it decreases Claw and Thunder's cooldown by 18%, and then using Lightning Fang resets the cooldown of Claw and Thunder, so you can pretty much get his E back more often. And with his last passive here, it just increases his energy recharge. For his constellations, C1 and C2 are pretty cool. Picking up an elemental orb gives you increased damage. Increases crit rate against enemies with less than 30% hit points. So when the enemies are low on hit points, you'll smack the crap out of them. And Bite is really cool as well because it decreases enemies' defense by 15% for 7 seconds. And this is really nice because it will make you do more damage and technically your whole party do more damage. So to quickly summarize here, Zhongli, a really, really unique and cool 5-star unit. He's one of the 2 polearm users in the game, so if you like polearms, it's definitely something to consider. He has lots of CC on his ult. He has lots of utility on his E ability with his shield. Definitely does really good damage if built properly and if used in a proper party setup, kind of like every other character. Now, for the 4 stars, Xinyan, she is an awesome fire/physical damage dealer, can be used as main damage dealer or support damage dealer. Razor, awesome main DPS, all physical damage, a little bit of electro damage, bring some super conduct, and go to town. Chongyun, one of the only options for an ice DPS besides Kaya. I really like him. He technically carried me through 3/4 of the game in the beginning with Barbara just freezing everything and kind of just cheesing my way through it. So if you're having difficulties with certain enemies, Barbara and Chongyun combo is very nice. So to answer the question whether to summon or not, I am personally not summoning for this banner because I already have a lot of units that I'm working on, and I just don't have the resources to build Zhongli. And that's mainly because I want to save some of my resources for the future units coming out. Also, I just went for C6 Child. So since I invested into Child, I'm not going to spend for Zhongli because I just want to save my money. For you guys, the question you should ask yourself is, do you have the resources to build him? Do you have a weapon for him? Do you have another Geo character to use in the party with him to get maximum Geo resonance damage? If the answer to those questions are yes, then go ahead and summon because he is really cool. Now about the 4 stars, you need a Greatsword user. If you need a half pyro, half physical damage dealer to help break ice shields and to help set up Vaporize for, let's say, Child, then Xinyan is definitely a good option. And the other 2 are just really good Claymore main DPS. So if you need any of those 3 things, definitely go ahead and summon. Now, I feel like for free-to-play players or for some players lacking fire DPS and or cleanses, Xinyan is going to be the key to beating Abyss 12. Even if you're not going for Zhongli, I would go ahead and pick up Xinyan if you're having issues with Abyss 12. I know I've done a lot of blabbing in this video, but I feel like I wanted to cover all of these characters because there's a lot of misinformation out there, and as soon as a character is not considered OP, it's automatically considered bad, and I feel like it's just a very toxic way of dealing with it. So I wanted to go ahead and just point out all of the things that are good about these characters and the way that you can use these characters to benefit your party. I think I have said everything that I wanted to say though, so that's going to do it for today's video. Please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.